Hey, so welcome to another episode of the Soulful Side of Life with me, Portee. I hope that you're well and having a good week. So, I'm happy about this podcast episode. Uh, as you know, this is Women's History Month and doing all episodes on inspiring women that are leading in their sphere of influence. And today's interview conversation is with Rupa Dash. And I met Rupa last May at the Cannes Film Festival. She had an inaugural summit for the World Women Foundation that she co-founded. And she had inspiring speakers, and we've stayed in contact since then. And I just knew that I would love to interview her for one of these episodes this month because she is moving and shaking. And the thing that I really like about Rupa is that she is able to bring women together to create a network and to get things moving. She is a global change maker. She's particularly skillful in creating a seat at the table for women, and she's driven by this. I discern that it comes from a pure and genuine place, a good heart. And a little bit about Rupa. She is an entrepreneur and futurist. She is based in the City of Angels, Los Angeles, and is the first Indian American managing director of the world's largest women's entrepreneurship network and was recognized by the White House for this. She's also a partner of Dash Global Media. It's a consulting company shifting the dichotomy between innovation and evolution to prepare startup companies for the global reset in Asia and Central Africa. Rupa also works with Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, UN Women, Davos Forum, and other distinguished organizations and companies. Rupa's passion for philanthropy led her to co-found and be CEO of the World Woman Foundation, a global initiative of mentoring 1 million women by 2030. Rupa has worked with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and is the first woman to receive the UN's International Telecom Union Award for her work in bringing mobile entertainment content to Indian farmers across 40,000 villages. So, if that right there doesn't inspire you, you're going to be even more inspired by the conversation. So enjoy this podcast episode with Rupa Dash. Be inspired, and happy Women's History Month. Rupa, thank you so much for joining the podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali, for the invitation. I'm super excited. And hopefully, we will have a glorious conversation because it's a glorious day here in California.
Oh, nice. So the sun's shining as usual, I can imagine.
Shining right on me. It rained a little bit last night, though.
I did see that about the rain that's happening. I think that's normal for this time of year.
I know. I know.
Yeah. Okay, well, you're an inspiring woman. You get out there and you network and you meet people and you have conversations and discussions about advancing women forward, about topics in entertainment. And I just would love to find out more about you and what inspires your desire to bring people together. So, my first question is, can you talk a little bit about where you're from and maybe if that contributed to this gust for life and network and making change happen in the world?
That's a great question. Thank you. I grew up in a very small town in India, and it is the eastern part of India. Not, I don't know if you know, but it's called Orissa, and in a tiny city. and it's called the Silver City for some reason. A lot of silver is produced in a lot of filigree work, a lot of craftsmanship in terms of silver ornaments and jewelry. And my parents named me Silver as well, which is in my native language. We call it Rupa. I was very curious as a kid, but as you know, that it's a very small town, and I was, most of my um, extended family had one boy in the family, and my parents had only two girls. And that meant that from childhood, you're always hearing like, okay, education is not important. You just get something so that you can read, write, and just make. Whenever your husband asks, just you can sign papers and things like that. And education was never so important for my extended family because they thought me and my sister like we are just two girls. But I was always a dreamer and also very stubborn kid. I never understood, still it is hard for me to understand when somebody tells me no. Um, because I always thought that cannot be a permanent answer for anything, It it maybe it means like not yet, or maybe try something different. Um, but how can you say to a young girl that, oh, this is you're only going to study as much as you're required to sign a paper or kind of do what your husband does, but you don't need to educate yourself so much. Yeah, I think that's how it all started. Why I got interested um, in self growth and just exploring the world and trying different things.
Wanting something more for yourself.
Yes, yes, I think it really started from there. Always listening. Oh, this is not for you. Oh, no, no, this girls don't do this way. Oh, girls don't need to do this way. Oh, you're a girl, you will not need this skill. But of course, my parents were very supportive. It was all the extended family who would always tell you this. But my parents, my specifically my mother was like, she would hear all this and she would tell me it doesn't matter. It all
Yeah.
depends on what you want to do. And she would let us kind of explore the world and do different things.
Wow, so that was great. You didn't have any sort of pushback from the two most important people at that time in your life, your parents, or at least your mom.
My dad needed some I would say he needed to understand what the possibilities are for girls because I don't think he fully understood that. I wouldn't give so much credit to my dad. It was my mother who kind of helped everybody make the space for everybody to be what we are today.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, I don't know about you, but I've struggled with confidence, especially in my early years as a child. I was extremely shy.
Mhm,
And I think women tend to struggle with confidence.
mhm,
Like, for example, running for political office, you have to ask a woman on average 6 to 8 times to run for office. A man, you have to just ask 1 to 2 times to run
mhm,
for office.
mhm,
Um, and I think also women struggle with advocating for themselves in the workplace,
mhm,
negotiating a higher salary. Why do you think women struggle with confidence? How have you learned to believe in yourself?
Okay, so this is what I learned, because as I told, I started with this, like always you're hearing no, and you start to self-doubt yourself. But I don't think I had too much of self-doubt about anything, or maybe I was naive, I didn't know anything better. If I think about doing something, then I think like, why am I thinking if I'm not doing it? You
Mhm.
know? I don't spend too much time in just thinking, ruminating and asking and sitting on it. And I think that highly contributed to the person I am today, probably. But I must say, a lot of men are taught to be brave, but we are taught to be perfect.
Mm,
And I think, and that
mm,
kind of difference you feel once you're growing up, and that really contributes to your confidence, your ability to say yes to opportunity, to kind of even to fail, even to try something new. uh, I don't
yeah,
I don't think like women are encouraged to fail, or they're mostly encouraged to be perfect, to fit into this role, to be um you know that woman in the family who doesn't say anything when something goes wrong, be that girl on the table who always seeks permission. I think it boils down to mostly social conditioning. um yeah, I think I did not believe in this idea of taking permission from anybody, even like my mom, who eventually even like my father would never ask us to take permission for different things. We just do what we want to do. And I think that's why we grow up as individuals. It's
yeah,
it's um it's hard to see, like, even like with so much information, we live in the age of information. And when I was growing up, we did not have so much of information. We did not have so much of visuals to see what a confident young woman really looks like. I think maybe that really helped us, to have a blank canvas, go out there, figure out there is no perfect role model out there to follow. Just create your own path. But right now, with all the digital tools, with information, you are looking at all this notion of perfection and notion of what is it to be a woman. And I think I see a lot of young women and young girls struggle with confidence. I see that.
yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. It's how we are brought up from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of that's changing in young girls in 2026 versus when I was a child in the early 90s. I think parents are trying to empower both children and their daughters just as much as their sons
Mm-hmm.
to, yeah, believe in themselves. And I yeah, I guess the generations below us, I do see a confidence, I think every generation has a confidence that the one before it may not have had. And I think when I look at myself, I have found it a challenge to advocate for myself sometimes in professional environments. But I always keep a quote by Oprah in my head that we get in life what we have the courage to ask for. And I think that when a woman stands up to advocate for herself in any environment, we can be surprised that we can often get what we're wanting, but if we don't ask, nobody's going to give it to us.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 13-year-old. I always tell her, if you walk into your room, people are there always to help you and support you. But if you don't know the art of asking, if you don't know what you need, and you will never get it. You should be the first person to raise your hand to ask for help. It's confidence is not always raising your hand to talk about something or to show that you are a confident woman only if you know certain things. It could be just raising your hand and saying that, hey, I don't know this. How do I do this? How do I figure out this? Is there anybody in the room who's willing to help me? The more you socialize and get in ease with your failure, I think,
Mhm.
and I think that really helps you to advocate for yourself and give yourself the permission to be in a room where you feel, oh, maybe I don't belong in this room. Totally you belong in this room. So I think, why have I always again tell to whenever I meet young girls, like, you have wings, and if you have wings to fly, why ask for permission?
Yeah. Yeah, why ask for permission? Um, where did your passion come from for wanting to be a change maker? Okay, I know you talked about your mom in your early life, but specifically for founding the World Women Foundation and how it uplifts and brings together women. Where did that come from?
That's a great question. It's a long story, but I will try to make it as short as possible. As I said, I grew up in a very small community. I'm the first girl to get educated in my family, and so is my sister. However, while we were growing up, my mom always wanted to be a teacher. However, she could not become a teacher. She eventually, just helped us get through education, but what she really did was, there was a lot of young girls in my community who were never allowed to go to school, or even if they went to school, they never had an opportunity to pursue high quality education. So she would invite them at home and teach them for free. And some of those girls are doing really well in life right now. And I saw the impact of education, and then sometimes we wait for the perfect title, the perfect position, the perfect power to do something for ourselves or probably people around them. I saw that in action while my mom was doing it. And when I go back home every year, I meet those young, women who are almost my age now, and I see them doing well in life. Otherwise they would be picking rags, on the street. So or maybe married and get abused or something, so when I see the impact, and that really left a deep impact on me. So throughout my career, whenever I've done a job or started an organization, I really put women in the center of the disruptive future. And I think, like, if we are more than half of the population, and if the world is changing faster than we can think of, what can we do as whatever is that power we have to contribute and to make change, whether it is climate action, whether it is uh, the new wave of AI demanding new skills, and or women having a great idea and looking for access to capital. And if oftentimes, even if women find the access to capital, they don't have the community and the support. And I saw that in a very small way while growing up, how my mom created opportunity. Even like, she wasn't a therapist. We did not have this idea of a therapist, but there were a lot of girls in my community would call her, hey, and they would call her and tell her, can I talk to you, have this problem. She would be just a listen. She would be a person who would be just listening to these young girls. So, I mean, these selfless acts like really made me think, like, what am I going to do? Whenever I start something, I would focus on empowerment is again a very vague term. As a foundation, we empower women by investing in 1 million women by 2050, by providing access to capital, coaching, building communities, and also, telling stories of women as if she's the hero of her own story.
Yeah.
So these are the different ways how we think, how I think, we can make an impact if we put women in the center of the disruptive future.
When did you found the World Women Foundation?
Um, well, I founded the foundation in 2014. 14.
Okay. And since then, like, what are some of the events that you all partake in, and that what are ways people can get involved?
Well, as I say, oftentimes we provide funding for women to start businesses and micro grants. But we often find women do not have the global stage to share those big ideas and take it to the next level. So we have our own mm, media properties that we have developed. For example, ones that you have attended, the Cannes Film Festival. We are at Cannes Lions, and we are at the United Nations General Assembly Week. We just returned from the sidelines of the World Economic Forum. So there are several things that we do throughout the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Um, you once said in an interview I watched recently, when women start second guessing themselves, we can lose a seat at the table.
Mm.
How have you made sure to not lose a seat at the table? And if you have, how do you find a new seat?
Um, so couple of things, in essence of the interview again, I can't get to the whole story, but what I will say is I have changed 4 careers, maybe
Mm.
5. And I have I had a very thriving career back in India. I was working in media and entertainment. And when I moved to United States, I don't know if those skills really was useful. You had to reinvent yourself and figure out how to be useful. First useful yourself, and then you're in a position to help people.
Yeah.
So, and I have been on tables, and I felt like if the table you know didn't feel like that fitted me, or didn't my opinions or my skills didn't matter, I always built my own table.
Mm.
um you know when you know that why you are there, the imposter really is out of does it doesn't come with you to sit on that table.
Yeah.
So I also make a point to speak early and put my intention out there, why I'm there, and not wait long enough to just speak my mind thinking like what somebody else will think, and if they will accept my views.
Yeah.
The harder you wait to share your voice, the harder it becomes to find your voice.
Mm.
So I just stopped asking if I belong at a table or at the table.
Mm.
I
Mm.
started assuming the table would not be complete without me. I started, and I think that really changed how I showed up, mm, in right places, how I built my network, or how I thought about impact or growing the organization. So, yes, when you're from a small town and you come from a different country, you always second guess yourself. Um, but something is important. You go prepared, you go with data, you go with preparation. All that is very important. But you don't go with your imposter syndrome that's going to sit next to you. It's not going to help you. Speak early.
Yes.
Yeah. Speak with knowledge, and the longer you wait to speak your mind and what you know, it will be extremely hard to find your voice, because the world will never give you the mic and tell you, I know that you have a great idea and I want you to speak. The world never opens door for anybody.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think it does. You have to go out there and build everything brick by brick, and also make space for the door where you want to enter. So I think that I stopped assuming that this table would not be complete without me, and once I believed in that, things just happened that way.
Your response there, it really just spoke to my soul. Um, because I feel that I've been left out of tables and it has forced my hand to
Mhm.
go and make my own table, where I wouldn't necessarily say that I grew up as a child with this ambition to create my own table. I always envisioned a life where I would be sitting at somebody else's table and be content there. But I think that when somebody comes across as ambitious, or somebody, and in a humble, ambitious way, not even trying to take over and rule the world, you can just have a little bit of ambition. Um, People don't like it, and they'll try and push you out of the table.
Mhm.
And so I have found that when that happens, and as you just said, nobody is going to invite you to the table, and you've got to find your voice early on. I think you have to decide early on, okay, I'm no longer at this table, so I'm going to go and launch my own podcast or start my own foundation or my own group. If you wait too long, you as my dad says when we play checkers, you think long, you think wrong. You'll never start it.
Yeah.
So I'm at that season in my life where I'm just creating my own table. And
Mhm.
perhaps, for some people, that's the plan that God has all along, that you were meant to sit at someone else's table for a season. And then some people are created to create tables, and it can be very empowering. And like you said at the end of what you just said, when you decide to launch and do your own thing and you change your mindset that this isn't going to be complete without me, um, things start changing and shifting and happening. And people come and join your vision, and you join other people's visions, and
Mhm.
you get to where you're ultimately supposed to go.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
you, 100%, because you don't go to a movie theater to see just a story. You buy the ticket to see a hero story.
Yeah.
So, so hero is somebody who is, you have to be your own hero, and I don't think people will like that bravery, or even some people might consider that arrogance, and some might get threatened by your ambition. Well, you are not welcome to my table because I'm not going to invite you to spoil my party.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have done that. Lot of cleaning such tables. I have done that in the past, and I continue to do that. And I don't feel bad about it. In my personal life, in professional or social life, we all do that.
Yeah. And I've often thought about it, whereas why get mad at what God has put on the inside of somebody else?
Mhm.
Some people you've maybe never met them, and you sit down and you're listening to them talk for 5 minutes, and you're like, this person's going to be somebody. This person's going to do something awesome. And that can be very threatening to a lot of people. But I sit back and I think, why should I be mad at this person's ambition, what the world may call arrogance, and that they're going to do something big?
Mhm.
The problem that I think somebody with that mindset ultimately has, they have a problem with God. They have a problem with what he put on the inside of that person to accomplish. And I don't want to be jealous or envious or disturbed
Yeah,
by, this is who this person is. They
yeah,
were created to do something amazing. And we spend a lot of time being threatened by people when we could be learning from them.
yeah.
And yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. It's so important just to own who you are.
indeed. Indeed. Um, why do you think women struggle with supporting each other?
Well, and you know, one of our mission is the equality moonshot mission of the organization. We just don't call we are aiming for equality, but we call it the equality moonshot mission. For the long time, we are fed this myth, the scarcity myth. And that idea, that only one idea that there is only one seat for a woman, so we compete. We compete, actually. And that really creates a culture of comparing ourselves with each other, you know. And the equality moonshot mindset really gives us the opportunity to think about abundance. And I like the way we met each other in Cannes, you know, I hope we created an environment of abundance. It wasn't an environment like there's scarcity, there's only one seat on the table, and how can we just, let one woman shine? I think that is utter failure for the equality not equality moonshot or the equality movement if we still remain in the scarcity mindset, even in the age of intelligence, where it is taking over. I think human connection, human empathy, and how we care about each other, how we build relationships, will become even more important, even in the age of artificial intelligence. So I think scarcity is one of those things, and scarcity leads to jealousy. And often, I have seen that you might also see that in smaller environment, not just professional environment, in non-professional environment, women often um, would see something wrong, but they would like you to suffer the same thing, rather they being the first one saying that, hey, you know what you're going through, I exactly know what it is. I'm going to help
Mm-hmm.
you get through this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think they do that because it's a very scarcity mindset. And I have been, for last 2, 3 years, I have been very selective of the people that I would like to bring along with me and who kind of really think about this very deeply, because it's a very important issue. It's not just a mindset issue, but also a structural issue. So, if we really want to move the equality needle forward, I think once women's success is everyone's success. It is our success. Um, it's a blueprint. It can become like a really accelerated blueprint for our growth. And if one wins, everyone wins. Uh, but I see still women are envious because they always think there's one seat at the table and we are all competing for it.
Yeah. I think what it also is as well is that, women, men are to go out, create business, do life,
Hmm.
or yeah, work, create business. And I think, women, if you think about traditional roles in society, women are were to be delighted in, right? To be chased, to be pursued by a man. And I don't know if it has anything to do with a mindset of, I got to have children before my time runs out, so I've got to be pursued and chased. Whereas men don't have that. If again, if we're thinking about traditional roles, that kind of burden that they've got to be pursued and have children before a certain time runs out. And I think that we take that as women, that mindset, even into professional spaces. So if a woman walks into the room and she's got her high heels on and red lipstick and she looks great, a lot of the women in the room are, well, who does she think she is? Instead of being like, wow, she looks great. Like, maybe I can learn something from her. Immediately, that scarcity mindset starts. Immediately, that low self-esteem starts.
Yeah.
I was listening to Caroline Stanbury's podcast not too long ago, and she was saying she's got female friends or women around her who will only befriend other women who have lesser education than them, who are lower on the social status than them. I was at Venice Film Festival back in September, and a girl was saying, I only date men who are ugly, who aren't good looking, because it's a scarcity mindset that she believes her looks over his will keep him in a certain place of pursuing her versus a man who's a very good-looking man. And I'm thinking, listening to this, I had never heard such talk that
Mm-hmm.
you're choosing a friend or a partner, a romantic partner, based of that they've got to be lower than you in some level. And that goes back to that scarcity mindset. And that's, I think, our downfall as women, because we spend time being jealous and envious of people we could be learning from. So
Mm-hmm.
it
Yes, yes,
requires a healing and an internal healing within oneself, and
yes.
just letting go of
Mhm.
jealousy and envy, because we you don't get far, I think, in business, in the world, in a network, when we're envious and scarcity mindsets.
I
So
agree with you 100%. You know, sometimes you walk into a room full of women, even in your personal life, you would see not many women will compliment you because who you are. They will try to behave as if they don't know who you are.
yeah,
And that speaks a lot about the mentality of what's going on internally, you know. And I think a lot of younger generations are learning that they have to stay together to make progress.
yeah, for
There's
sure. We need each other to go forward.
And of course, you know, success of a in still in 2026, the success of a woman is dependent on how many copies she can make in this world. You know, it's just so ridiculous. And she has to step into this scarcity mindset and hunt a man so that she can make as many copies as possible. That's so ridiculous. But
Yeah.
but I hope that changes.
Yes, it starts with every individual.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Um, International Women's Day and Women's History Month is about empowering women,
Mhm.
investing in women entrepreneurs, getting women the tools they need to be successful in life. Um, why is having these tools important for women to thrive in society?
Well, I would say inspiration without implementation is just a nice feeling.
Hmm.
So we just don't need to celebrate women, you know, in Women's History Month. We need to fund women's future. That's
Yeah.
where real change will happen. And um I think access to capital is an ultimate equalizer for women. If we want women to be part of global solutions, if we want women to be part of the new future that we are trying to create with exponential technologies, whether from climate change to AI ethics, we have to give them not only the tools but also right check. So that and fund women ideas. So we move from inspiration and nice feeling to really implementing and making things happen for women.
Gotcha. Um, your tribe of women is global and comprised of impact women in every sector. How are you able to create such a network?
I think it's part of our programs that we have created. You know, we started as a foundation because I have entertainment and media background. We just started with creative projects, funding creative projects, but eventually we moved to other areas from businesses to empowering girls in STEM. Um, so we have, and also, you know, working with diplomats and teaching girls and young women the art and skill of negotiating on tough tables. I think we have been able to be very successfully creating a complex and important network of women that can work with each other to shape a new future in a bold new way. And that is necessary right now. Even if you are a filmmaker, you are highly impacted right now with what's happening in AI, right? So you can say that you don't need to know what's going in the technology world. And if you are even in the entertainment industry, you need to know what is happening globally to be not just politically sensitive, but also making sure you have access to those networks who can help you tell a better story. To fact check, because we are living in a world where trust is the new currency. So to build that kind of trust, you definitely need a diverse network of individuals to, whether it is for fact checking, whether it is for accelerating businesses, or whether it is for self growth. And that's how we have been able to successfully do that. We are now a network of 55 more than 55,000 women globally.
Wow. It's amazing that you were able to start such a foundation. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. Can you just briefly talk about your background in entertainment? Are you doing entertainment work now that you're based in California?
Well, we have a content platform which we call the World Women Hour. It's basically, data says like every hour there are certain numbers of women get raped by intimate partners. There are women every hour women face violence. Every hour women do not get equal pay. Every hour women walk miles to fetch water. So we use that hour framework to spotlight 60 women from 60 different parts of the world. And it's a annual content that we create for from our studio. So of course we do a lot with that, but of course as a foundation, we definitely rely on three parts, which is of course the content that we create. Is it educational, is it entertaining, and will it empower the next generation? And how can we take whatever we are creating to classrooms to empower girls to learn more and do more with their lives? Yes, we do a lot.
Great. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ann.
And also we have a music scholarship program where we encourage young girls to learn music. And uh, music is something also helps you to learn STEM, and specifically maths. So we for last 2 years we have been doing a concert at the Grammy Museum, and bringing in young people to learn maths through music. So it's an award-winning program which we have been doing, and now we are looking at scaling the program as well. So yeah, we do a lot with entertainment. I think
That's wonderful.
entertainment is key to talk some of the complex challenges of the world.
For sure. It pulls on the emotions and heartstrings if entertainment is done right to make change in the world through film and music and yeah. A couple of last questions. What projects will your foundation be working on this year? I know that you'll be back in Cannes.
Mhm,
If you can talk a little bit about that.
mhm. Well, this year for us, important is AI literacy for women, ensuring that women in the creative workforce are getting access to the tools, and also work opportunities as the world is changing faster than we can think of, specifically in the creative space. And there is a lot of anxiety and uncertainty as well, and um, there is a chance that women will lose most of the jobs in the space if they don't get the right kind of skilling and investment. So yeah, so for us, AI literacy, AI training for women in the creative workforce. As we see, the creative economy is going to explode in next few years, but this also comes with a lot of threat and opportunity. So our goal would be providing access to lot of training and professional opportunity for women in the creative economy space for next 2 years.
That's great. And what can we expect from the summit that you'll be hosting there?
Well, it's still work in progress. Lots is under wraps, but this year we would be taking our World Women Hero Awards to Cannes, and we are actually hosting a gala this time, and inviting some of the most I can't give out the names yet,
Sure.
but of course we'll gather some world-class filmmakers and CMOs and tech leaders for Cannes.
That's wonderful. Well, Rupa, thank you so much for your time and for talking about these themes that I hope will inspire women during this Women's History Month and after.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the invitation. And hopefully, everybody will enjoy listening to this. Thanks.
For sure, yes. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode and that you have found a soulful connection to the conversation. God bless you, and until the next episode, go bless somebody else.